Hi, I'm Rigger, this is Your Right, and today we're diving back into something different. So, I made a video called Half Cut Review, and I did it of BNA, Brand New Animal, and no one watched it, and well, okay, that happens. But I'm not ditching the concept, but I am slightly changing it. What is the concept? Well, the concept is, I'm going to watch half a season of a show. So far, it looks like it's going to be a lot of anime, but it could be other things, but we'll see. There's a lot of anime I want to watch, there's a lot of random anime floating around streaming sites. I'll watch anything. But the idea is I'm going to sit down, do one recording session, watch 6 in a row, see if it hooks me, see what I've got to say about it, to give it a fair shake. And that's what it's going to be. I initially said I was going to do like the first half at some point, and then the second half at another point. I'm not promising that anymore. I'm just going to do the first half. If it hooks me and I love it, I'll watch more. If it doesn't, I probably won't. And if you guys really love something, or want me to keep watching something, you can tell me. So that's where the feedback comes in. If I really have to see something, or if I, miss something, that's where you guys come in. So initially I limited it to shows with just one season, or at least for the most part. Maybe I might not do that anymore, but the idea is I'm going to watch 6. Because 6 is half of a regular sort of anime season. It's usually 12, so 6. But it's going to be more relaxed. It's going to be a review style. And we're just going to go through. So basically, I'm going to give you this intro like I'm doing, and then we'll watch each episode, and I'll check back in after each one and tell you the plot a little bit, tell you how it's going, tell you my thoughts, and you tell me what you think in the comments below. That being said, we'll do the YouTube things right here, so if you like it, share it if you think others would like it, let me know your thoughts below, and subscribe for more. Now, what are we doing today? Well, you've seen the thumbnail, you've seen the heading, but, we'll just say, I believe it's pronounced Cagaster of an insect cage. It's on Netflix. I love the concept of horror anime, and this one looks like it's going to be very militaristic sort of thing, which isn't as much my deal, but we'll give it a shot. Why not? I see these episodes are a bit longer than usual, like, 25s are fine, but there's half hours, 28, so probably sitting in for a 3-hour session. It's already 9 at night, and that's nothing for me usually, but I am very tired today, but we'll see. But we'll get started, have a few drinks, watch some cool horror anime. I saw a little bit of the trailer, but not really. But yeah. I've got my beer, got my puppy with me. Let's do it. Alright, that was episode 1. Last time I did like a thing to also like cover the opening in its own section, but really there's not much to talk about. It's mostly like sort of scientific photos like about bugs and cells and stuff, and a Japanese rap song over it. Okay, not much to say. Very military science, I guess. But, so what's the show? So, the show is, it's post-apocalypse, modern day, so guns and all that, military and cars and such. People get a disease that turns them into a giant bug. Okay? Big bug disease, it takes 10 minutes to onset, it takes 20 minutes to completely transform. They say the only way you can kill them is to kill them in that 20 minutes, which it immediately breaks its own rules. That's not true. But they do become pretty much bullet and knife proof once they are fully formed, but we do see one get killed. It seems weird that their eyes being so exposed like that aren't a weak point, but apparently not. They sort of go with zombie rules and say you gotta decapitate them. Alright, two-thirds of the Earth's population is gone. Okay. The episode is Little Bo Peep, and it's about a girl who's lost, and she keeps singing the song about Little Bo Peep lost her sheep, so I guess she's the lost sheep, we get it. So we meet Kido, who is an exterminator. Also, if I screw some of these names, I'm sorry guys, but But Kido, he's an exterminator who seemed like a group of sort of mercenaries that kill bugs, makes sense. He looks a little bit silly, but kind of in a realistic way, like, the knee pads aren't glamorous and the helmet's not really cool, it's not super anime or anything, but, it's more like what you'd actually wear to keep yourself safe, so, makes sense. He's the gritty one, he's the dark, edgy, cool one with his own code and stuff, He says he always keeps his promises with the dead. Okay, so we start off with, we do the explanation of what the bugs are, and then we have a father and a daughter flying through the wasteland and being pursued by bugs because they're making tons of noise and all that stuff. And they get attacked, and there are Kido and Jin out there. Jin is like his Kido's friend or something. They collect scrap and stuff, I guess, from the old world and bring it back to the settlement. And they see this attack happening, and they jump in trying to help. Interestingly, Kido seems to want to keep fighting bugs even when they killed sort of the threat, because, I guess he hates them. What happens? So the father gets killed, but he makes Kido promise to take the girl to her mother, whose name, the little girl's name is Illy, and the mother's name I did have somewhere. I think it's Nadia. Tanya. Sorry, not Nadia. Tanya. My bad. So, exterminators are a thing. There's lots of them. Anyway, so she doesn't want to leave. Obviously, she just finds out her father died. She starts having a breakdown. She's just a little girl. He slaps her across the face, which, they discuss a bit in this episode of, I don't know what they're going for here, but... So, he slaps her in the face because she's being stupid. Yeah, stop grieving over your dad, even though he's, right there. You gotta move it or we die, sort of thing. And she ends up coming with, and later they talk about it, how, who would slap a little girl? Oh, well, if you didn't slap me, I would have been there just waiting to die, so maybe it's a good thing? I don't know. I don't know if they're gonna go into it, or if it was just, occasionally in a, an intense situation, things like that might be called for to snap someone to reality, sort of thing. We'll see. I don't know where they're gonna go for it. Maybe they'll do, a military sort of, mindset kind of thing. It could be interesting to pursue. Anyway, they go back to the settlement, which is E area, because they're all done with, lettered areas, so A, whatever. So, E area is a big, sort of city with walled gates. Apparently it's protected by a tank squad, and they have a rivalry with the exterminators. They don't really get on. They're drunkenly at a bar arguing about it. And one of the people coming in on one of the transports in and out that would collecting stuff, because it's a train of people that collect things and bring them back. He starts turning into a bug, kills a dude, kills a few people, and Kido, of course, cuts his head off and looks like a badass. Everyone else sucks. That sort of happens. Traumatizing the girl more. Her dad died, she got chased by bugs, car accident, taken to a place she doesn't know with people she doesn't know. As soon as she gets there, another bug breaks out in the city, sees that guy get killed too. So, And then they go to an inn run by Miss Mario, who seems to be a trans character, which, okay, cool. No one mentions it or no one questions it, so I guess it's accepted for the society, which is nice. I'm hoping, I did write a note here, that I'm hoping that because the show is gritty and edgy, that it doesn't become a point, no one starts going off at her about it or making it an issue. But if it's just there to, just have a normalized character like that, then sure, why not? Miss Mario, yeah. And then what happens? Illy runs away because she's scared and wants to go home. Can't find a way home, of course, and runs into a local thief boy, local Aladdin, local little kid. No, he's not a thief, he's just kids playing around in the city. And they have a little bonding thing that they dressed up as bugs and scare her, and then he saves her or tries to save her, and then they just hang out and talk at his place. His name is Naji. He says he's from a part of the city, and they go to it that was walled off, destroyed and burned when an outbreak happened, killing all the people inside. They just locked the doors, burned the place. He has his Gramps there, who does the anime, old man jokes, and that they call him, pervert and stuff a few times, and he, it opens with him looking at Illy's feet, and then, panning up her body and going, oh, you brought a girl. I can't tell if it's supposed to be he's teasing the young boy just because, you got a girlfriend, kid sort of thing, or if he's actually being weird about it, who knows. I hate that thing, but we've got to move on. He's not an important character, he just pops up to give info and that. She ends up going back, she has a conversation with him, they talk about where their home is, how he'll remember this place as home and this sunset that they're looking at as his memory of home because he doesn't really remember much before that, and she goes into her memories of home, where she lived on a sheep farm with her father. There was almost no tech out there. They got water from a well, etc. I know that I'm just summing up the plot, but it's episode 1, so I gotta give you the groundwork. I won't go big plot every time, but we gotta cover it. So that's where we're at, but let's talk about the show technically. I don't like the look of it too much. The sort of 3D animation for the car chases and stuff is the driving looks really janky. The bugs aren't that scary. I think it's the decision to make their faces, especially their eyes, so big and goofy. The concept is kind of scary, but the execution not so much. But I'm hoping they can do some cool stuff in the setting. We saw the bug city, which they called the insect cage, I guess. That looks cool. I don't know, I'm hoping for... Although I've gone on for ages about the plot, it feels like we got none, right? Like, little girl, whatever. I'm hoping that her, she's important, her mom's someone important, we get plot. I'm sure there will be, because there's a lot of episodes of this. I don't think it's just going to be a survival show. So, I'm hoping to see that. That was episode 1. What do I think of it? It's fine. Did it hook me in? No. Would I watch more? I mean, I'm going to, but would I just watch more casually? Yeah, I'd watch another one, maybe 2, and then I'd drop it if it still wasn't hooking me. So I said I'd watch 6. We're sitting down for 6, so let's move on. We'll go to episode 2, called Anchovy and Black Lizard. I can just see the title in front of me. Okay, let's do it. Okay, episode 2, and it's a bit of a slug, guys. I mean, I'm fine to watch whatever, I'll get through this, but geez, it's lacking on its hooks. I thought we started real promising, because we opened up with people investigating the dad on the, in the dead in the car, and you get the intrigue, because there's secret military guys, they knew his dad's name, they called him Griffith, said it's been 10 years, and he was checking to see if he was alone or if there was another body, so I'm assuming the girl's important, he was important, people are going to chase them, but that's the only bit of intrigue you get. From there, the rest of the episode's just an episode. What is the episode? Well, not much. Kido goes to the owner of the bazaar, the director of trade, and he hires him to protect their convoys. They take some goods elsewhere. We learn a bit about Kido's history, that he is from the east, which is the furthest east place people can live, and there's tons of bugs out there, and exterminators out there are a different breed or whatever. What else? The tank guys continue being just annoying military gruff types who just yell at Kido that he's always wrong no matter what he says, and hate him because he's an exterminator. Okay. There's a whole awkward bit in this. I'm not liking it. It's, people make weird jokes and comments about Illy. Like, she says she's 14 and she's waiting tables, and all the guys in the bar are being nice to her, like, hey, Illy, being smiling. I thought, oh, they're just being nice because she's a kid. But then they go, oh, it's nice to have a girl in here and it makes this food taste better. And I don't know if it's poorly translated that they are just being nice that she's a kid and, like, innocent and that, like, is relaxing, or if it is weirder. Because they all want to protect her as well, because they hear that she's been sold to this place, which isn't true, and they all stand up to fight, and then Mario, threatens them and they just sit back down. But I don't know, it's either very inappropriate and weird, or tonally just wrong, and translated badly, or converted badly, whatever. But not liking that. And there is a weird thing where Mario talks to Illy and has come to the conclusion that she is interested in Kido, which I guess, younger person has crush on older person they find, interesting and cool or whatever. But they don't really go into it. I don't think it's going to go anywhere. It's just, I think they just make it like a kid thing, and maybe it's not even the truth. It's hard to say. What else do we learn? We learn that Kido is, I don't know, he's either the super just best guy at everything, because he can apparently move at, super speed, or he has, some powers or something. Because, the other exterminators are pissed at Kido for taking their work, because he's getting hired on all the trade routes, and they say, they muscle him and be like, hey, give us a cut, and it'll make up for it. He tells him to get stuffed, he beats him up, punches him around, guy pulls out a gun, everyone's at a standstill and at a hold, and Kido, faster than the blink of an eye, pulls out his sword and takes the guy's hand off at the wrist. So, I guess they played all weird effects and stuff, so is he just the best, or was that a thing? We'll see. What else do we get? There's someone killing exterminators. It's a weird person in I call them the beekeeper. It's like a cloth mask suit with a venting of mesh for the eyes. And they kill people with a sword, and they talk about there's been a rash of killings all over the place, like this. People diced up, organs pulled out, etc. And we see the exterminators who threaten Kido planning to get back at him, and then they run into this person, and it's implied that they're gonna die too. We see Kido out on the trail, protecting the staff with the tank guys. We see a new bug, which was a giant sort of, not Godzilla's too big, but a big bug formed of lots of little bugs, so they were larvae pill bugs. all together, making like, you know, a sort of kaiju-y thing, and they blast it apart into all the little bits. I do wish they went into how the bug virus was transferred. I'm just assuming it's a bite for now, but they don't actually say. It's not touch, because we've seen Kido touch them. Kido? Don't know where that came from. Kido touched them when he fought them. And what else? That's about it. I think he's gonna make it back. I believe he's back. Oh, we get a flashback to Kido's past. He's sitting there thinking about his history, something about killing exterminators, and we get a flashback. It's super edgy in a church, and he stabs a guy, and he's got like a rosary cross and all that. And then he mentions his dad, like, isn't that right, Dad? So maybe that was his dad he killed. We get blood splashing on Jesus, and Kido is a little kid coated in blood with the sword he just killed the guy with. Maybe he was a bad guy. Usually they end up being like, you know, bad guys or abusers on this sort of show. We'll see. But look, you know, it's not super interesting. The intrigue part sounds cool, but it's not happening yet. The stuff with Illy is sort of going nowhere. Oh, and then, sorry, at the end, Illy gets sent. Illy says she'll go to the market and buy stuff for Mario. Mario gives over her wallet, and Illy goes to buy it. Of course, you know what's going to happen. The friends of the thief kid bump in. They call themselves the Red Rats. Bumps into her, nicks the wallet and runs. Then she runs into Naji, and then he knows where to go, and they meet this Lizzie character who seems to be running the little kids into thieves, and that's where we end. The horror is not horrific, and you know, anime oftentimes struggles with making horrific things horrific, but I thought it would be at least, you know, sort of that, maybe, edgy, entertaining, dark stuff. It's really not. It's not a lot of it. There's not a lot of even action at all. It's a lot of, well, so far it's just minor things people are doing. And every now and then something sort of impressive happens, but the animation isn't making it too impressive. You know, except for the pill bug thing, there were no real bugs this episode even, so we'll see. So far, not impressed, but we have quite a few to go, and I can already see my recording of my voice getting quite long. There's going to be a long video and a long recording time. We've got a lot to go, so we'll just move on. Oh, I want to say actually quickly, because I meant to mention it last episode, the animations on the people, when people motion and stuff without talking, are super over the top and slow. Like, huh? Me? Oh, he went that, like, you know, if you did all those actions, like, pointing to yourself or looking around confused, it's like, slow it down by 3, and that's how people do it. It's a bit weird. But we will press on. Episode 3, called From the Abyss. Actually, real quick, stop it right there. I just looked back at my notes. I forgot something. There is another weird, sex joke with Illy, that they go into Kido's room, and all he has is tons of books, and he goes, oh, he reads a lot. Oh, these are Kido's, you know, like, and then all he does is read and watch adult movies, and then she opens a box, and he's like, videotapes, and then is horrified and jumps back and gets laughed at for being so innocent. Don't know why we needed to know that, and it doesn't actually seem to fit Kido, so I wonder if there's something to that. But anyway, just wanted to throw that in there because it's just weird, and it's not adding anything, so it doesn't give Kido any more character. It's not very funny, and Illy's reaction is like whatever, and it's never mentioned again, so I don't get it. But anyway, say that. Now, episode 3. Okay, episode 3. Wow, so for all the other ones I have like a page of notes. This one I have 3 lines. Not much happens, but it's actually the best episode. I thought it was going to be complete throwaway trash to start with. By which I mean that, like, I thought it was just going to be a wasteful episode, because you have this show where not much is happening, and then the main plot for the first half is a game of tag. So, Illy, her wallet is stolen by this, you know, gang of not that great kid thieves. They challenge her to a game of tag. If she can win and get the person with the wallet, she gets it back. They run all through the town, run. They keep making fun of her for being a little princess. Turns out she's tougher than they think, and she keeps up the chase and tackles the leader. Eventually, when they get back to where they were raised, like where the leader was raised, along with Naji and all that in that burned down bit of the city. And it turns out she didn't have the wallet, but she's impressed and, you know, inducts her into the Red Rats gang and says they'll get it back. Go get the wallet off the others. And that's it for a huge bit of the plot. We open on, though, the serial killer guy doing this speech about how he does small breaths, and he compares himself to basically a deep sea fish, hiding his like, weird mouth, and his scales are black, etc. And that'll make sense in a bit, I guess. And, what else? So then we do the big game attack, and then Kido gets a note in his room that is the locations of all the killings so far and details on each of them. So basically, the killer definitely left the note in Kido's room because only the killer would know all these things. And Kido follows up on this lead. He comes across Naji with part of Illy's dress that she lost along the way in the game of tag. She had to take off a top layer of dress. Look, yeah, it's not as bad as it sounds, but, you know. And he's like, okay, so they find out they're heading to the Watchtower, which is like an old abandoned watchtower in a part of town. And he knows that that's a likely location this killer's gonna go, so you can see those two paths colliding. Oh no, we gotta go save her because the killer's gonna be there. Cut to the Watchtower, they're hanging out, Illy and Lizzie and one of the kids from the gang. Says that the other kid actually has the wallet, but he'll be along soon. So the kid comes along, hears the Little Bo Peep song from the killer, wanders over, sees a dead guy, blood everywhere, killer spots him, starts walking up and threatening him, and bam, right at the nick of time, Kido shows up, saves the kid, says run away, etc. And this is where we get the face down. So finally something interesting happens, because the only interesting thing to happen in an action way was the first episode where Kido jumps on the bug for 10-20 seconds and kills it, whatever. This time we get a fight between this guy and Kido. Kido has a pistol and his sword. This guy has two swords. And he, immediately when they start the fight, he does, like, supernaturally stuff, too. Like, he takes off it so fast he vanishes and reappears. I can't tell, again, if it's just exaggerated displays of incredible speed rather than being supernatural, but whatever. I think it's meant to be that, not supernatural. They're just meant to be super highly the best. Anyway, so Killer talking about how the other exterminators weren't satisfying, let's see if he is, and saying that people like him deserve to be preyed upon, and that humans hunting bugs is weird, makes them a freak too. So, you know, and exterminators, you know, just to talk about eating parts of them and whatever. So they have their fight, and I would like to say the fight is great. It's not. It's shot very close. A lot of the shots are super close in, like blades moving, and they'll do some nice lighting and stuff off them. And then like speed ramps, like slow-mo, and then it'll cut to another frame and they'll be sped up a little bit and then slow-mo. And it's sort of cinematic-y, but it's sort of filmed the way you'd film a fight if you were filming a real movie and the people couldn't fight too well, so you use close-ups to hide that the rest of them doesn't look so great. You know, you're just doing like swords clashing and bits where people are meet, and then you use effects and so forth to make that try and look cool. But when you're animating and you can, you know, to make them do whatever you want, it feels a bit cheap. Feels like, you know, they didn't have good choreography for it. Some of it's cool, like he delivers a cool knee, and you're like, yeah, you know, thinking with the whole body, that's kind of great, but for the most part, Anyway, big surprise comes when he's, what was I say? Illy gets word that there's the killer and knows that Kido was there because one of the kid who got scared ran away, they found him and he told them. So, Illy goes to, I don't know, help. Don't know how she can help. I guess she just wants to protect Kido, whatever. So she shows up, and Kido gets on the back foot because he goes to, I can't remember if he goes to kill him. Yeah, no. The killer lures him in by like, oh no, I'm disarmed, and falls back, and he goes in for the killing strike, and bam, these little, the insect legs fly out of this guy's chest because he's like half insect man. And it slices Kido on the arm, apparently giving him a poison. Not a lethal one, like a paralysis poison, like a sleeping poison. It starts, you know, he starts getting drowsy. And so this guy is half bug, which I sort of assumed there'd be something like that. I wish they had done more with the actual bugs first before elevating the threat to half bug people. You know, the Cagasters as bugs haven't really done much. We talked about how much they do. We've seen like a fight with one or two of them, including the guy in the street. But, you know, they talk about how much they wiped out, but really we haven't, like, had big bug threats we've had to struggle with. Because I thought, you know, usually you'd go, here's the big bug threat we have to struggle with, these are the enemies of the land, and then, like, halfway through, oh no, they've evolved, or whatever, you know, now they're half bug people, and, you know, they have intelligence and stuff. But they didn't do that. They just went, no, the bugs apparently are easy to deal with, despite them being, like, the biggest threat to mankind, because Kido's so awesome that he just destroys bugs. But now, oh no, there's half-bug assassin man. And Illy tries to save the day by running up the watchtower and banging metal together to get people's attention, just calling for help in general, because Kido's about to die. And the bug man notices and goes to attack her, and Kido pulls off I'm totally a badass move by like biting himself in the arm, so he like shocks himself awake for a second to take aim across this square and up this huge, you know, a really long shot for a pistol, and shoots and hits the guy like twice, and he hits the face mask, which breaks, the sort of insecty face mask on the suit. And the guy, I mean, he actually saw moments before, but he registers, he knows Illy, so it almost looks like it could be a relative or something. And he's like, oh, Illy, like, it didn't look like he was gonna stop. But either way, we find out that guy's name is Arct. We find out the killer's name. Anyway, he sees Illy and he's getting shot and he got wounded, so he runs away and he like jumps across buildings. He get like glimmers of wings under his body. And he's got like one big bug eye and one normal eye. Anyway, and then Kido has to sleep because he's still poisoned, and Illy curls up on sort of like puts her head on his lap and curls up, and then says Mario was right, so she's falling for him despite what I assume is a decent age gap there. And okay. And even to the point where Lizzie comes across and finds them like sleeping together with her head in his lap and like blushes and goes, ooh, okay. And this line had the only funny line I've heard so far, which is the other kids, when they hear about this is going down, they run off to find, I can't remember his name. He's the leader of the tank dudes who Kido always fights with, the big gruff military guy, and he delivers the one funny line, which is they're out looking for Kido in the darkness, in the ruins, where he's sleeping somewhere, and he just calls out, Kido, you dead? Call out if you're dead, or something like that. Like, it was just, okay, that's kind of funny, wasn't expecting it. You got a reaction out of me, which this show is struggling to do. I was hoping for some reactions because, you know, horror show, gore show, they hadn't even done a bad jump scare. Not that I would want that, but like, you know, whatever. Finally something happened. It's not how I'd structure it. It's not how I'd like it structured. It's whatever. I will obviously keep watching because I said I'd do 6. So halfway through, and something finally caught my attention. Oh, and so Arct knows Illy, and at the end Arct meets up in the back of a truck with a weird military man who knew Illy's dad. So, you know, he's working for people or something. Something's happening there. So, we'll see where it goes. I'm hoping that this intrigue happens. I'm hoping that some fights happen. You know, it's the problem with when you have innocent little girl who can't fight and super badass who kills everything and like can take on anyone. It gives them the excuse that your fights are over in an instant. So if you're really entertained by a guy looking badass all the time, I guess, but you know, there's no struggle there, no nothing. Here we finally got someone who's a match for him. There was something of a fight. I don't think it was shot very well. I don't know how much we achieved with it, but we got the most plot we've got so far. Hey, there's an assassin guy, and he's part bug, and he's a match for Kido, and Kido almost died, and the assassin guy knows Illy and ran away, so people know things, and things are happening, so thank God. I eagerly await episode 4 to see if they capitalize on this, or we go to the back burners again until more episodes, so we'll see. We'll check it out now. Episode 4. Let's do it. Oh my god, it's a miracle. Someone who can write characters showed up for an episode. This was a good one. It was good. Oh my god. You have no idea how hard I groaned after I finished the last section of the review, and I hit play, and the first thing to come up is, oh my god, the festivals today. Oh no. But look, I don't really like the Illy Kido stuff, but like, you know, she, you know, with her being whatever, but at the beginning of the episode, I thought, we're doing more of that because he's in her room and she's embarrassed because her bra's on the thing, and her diary with stuff about him's in it, and he's just rifling through stuff in her room because he used to be a storer, so he's looking for stuff, and she gets all embarrassed and wants to kick him out, and he, you know, she thinks she got away with him not seeing anything, and then he comments that there was like grammatical errors and stuff in her book and all that. But you know what? There was actually character being displayed, so even though I'm not like super into that storyline, they're actually acting like characters. You notice I never mentioned any characters so far? I just told you what the plot was about, because they didn't have any characters, none of them displayed any emotions or anything that really gave me anything. But look, they were like characters this episode. Multiple of them. It was really, I don't know if it was really good, it was just refreshing. But, okay, so what's the storyline? A big truck or train, I think it was a truck, like when I say train, like a caravan sort of thing, of sheep was being brought to this festival, and it went missing, and there was a big sinkhole, and they realized, okay, we must have gone down the sinkhole into the tunnels beneath the city, out in the sand. They get there, find one sheep at the bottom of the sinkhole, go to rescue it. Oh no, there's a giant tunneling bug with like a centipede sort of face, but like a big sort of almost cockroach body. Anyway, big bug tunneling, and it seems to be somewhat smart. It was using bait, or it seemed like that. our other subplot is that because the festival is trying to brighten things up, the urchin kids are being sort of forced into the underground to make everything look pretty. And they know the underground better than anyone, they know the tunnels and stuff. So Lizzie and the Red Rats and Illy go underground to explore the tunnels, and they go looking for sheep, because that sounds fun. So they're going through the tunnels, and you see where this is going. And then the military guys report that they saw the big bug, and they go to Kido and say, hey, need your help, because big bug. And he says that the way to do it is that you need someone who's bait to draw it out, who's good enough to get it all the way out into the open so we can kill it. And we get backstory on Kasim is the guy I couldn't think of. He's the guy in the tank division who's always, yelling at Kido, and he's a bit like a jerk, and he's like a militaristic rah, and he seems like an idiot. But anyway, he has some deep buried guilt, because when they burned down the West Gate area where all those kids' parents died and stuff, one of the kids there, when he was one of the soldiers doing it, like cleansing it all with fire, she called him a murderer and about everything going on, and when he was trying to save her. Turns out that was Lizzie, and he knows that, and those words stuck with him. They're burned into his head, and he feels guilty. And he says, can you teach me to be the bait? I can do it. I'll do it so we don't have to do that kind of cleansing again. Don't want to do that again. So, cool. Bonding between them two. And then, even more, he comes up and gives Kido advice later, because he, like everyone, they think he's interested in Illy. Again, okay. But he goes, give her a gift. That's what you do with, women. Here's a necklace that a pretty girl at the market convinced me to buy, but I have no one to give it to, so give her that. So at least there's bonding there. Look, and he says, I'm older than you, I'll be here to give you advice if you need it. A bit of sort of bro bonding. And, okay, so they set up, there's 3 big tunnels into the city, and the tank division blow up 2 of them, so there's only 1. And when they go to that tunnel, the military command guys run into some of the kids, and they say, oh no, Illy and that are down there. Right? Of course it's going how you think it is, and Kasim is sort of ready to die. He's standing with a payload underground. He's the last, line of defense. If the bug gets that far, they blow it up. But he doesn't want to do that because it'll take part of the city with it. So, if it can be avoided, but he's the last line. He's ready to die. He's there. So, Kido gets down into the underground and goes looking for them. He finds some of the kids. They say that the girls are up further, chasing sheep. And the sheep come charging out of the black towards them. Because it turns out that Illy and Lizzie did find the bug, and it had all the sheep herded together in its mandibles without killing them, so it was using some sort of bait. Anyway, and then it starts chasing them and trying to kill them. They run away through the tunnel. Kido meets up with them, and he starts shooting at the bug. It's not doing much, but he's just trying to slow it down. Not doing anything really. But there's even there's clips in here. The girls say Kido because he's about to get sort of run over by the bug, and they pull him off to a side bit that I hadn't noticed, a little indent in the wall, and it runs past him. And then he goes to chase it, and Lizzie goes, hey, if you'll see this sign on the wall up further, turn right, that's where you gotta go. He goes, oh, I forgot this was your turf too, and smirks at him and runs off. He's showing character, he's a person. It's amazing. And, anyway, so, they get the power back on, because apparently that was a thing. I don't remember that going off, but apparently it's on now. They start shutting doors, trying to lock it in. Kido gets back to Kasim. They're trying to hold the bug back, while Lizzie and Illy, they get out of the tunnels, and then he's ready to die, and the doors are coming down. Kido tackles Kasim under the door, leaves an explosive behind, boom, that goes off, and the doors were sealed, so the explosion's contained and the bug dies. And Kasim didn't have to die. They all get saved, everything's fine. It's all good. And then, and that's when you get the talk where Illy and Lizzie talk, and you find out that it was her and their backstory, and they decide they need to forgive people. Illy's is very childish. She should just forgive him for being in her room, and that confuses Lizzie. She doesn't really understand that bit. But she takes away that she should forgive Kasim after all this time, and, take it back despite how long it's been, because he didn't deserve that, and she doesn't really think that of him. She was just angry at everything that was happening. So, you think it's wrapped up, and it's nice, and people have had character arcs, and they actually pull a fast one on you here, because she goes and meets Kasim. He's standing looking at the nice sunset I've looked at a few times, and she gives him a nice speech, and they do the anime thing where, I just wanted to tell you, and then, loud bells go off, and you don't get to hear what they say. You're like, oh, that's gonna come back later. He'll have like a moment and we'll flash back and actually hear what she said. But, it doesn't actually go that way. And he clutches his face and like, oh, is he trying to hold back tears? No, he starts changing into a bug. Oh my god. He's now got to be killed. Right there. And there's another soldier coming near and he's gonna do it. And Lizzie won't let him. And he drags himself up to the roof. And, so Kasim does. And, of course, Kido shows up because extermination. And they find Kasim on the roof, and he's looking at a photo of him and his two friends who we've seen quite a few times who are also in the tank squad. And he gives him last words, and he just says, sorry, I won't be there to give you advice. And Kido cuts his head off, that's what you gotta do. And gets coated in blood, and he puts up a hard facade, and he walks away. And they do, there's actually directing here. There's a big bug, float thing in the festival. And they put fireworks to go blow it up, and the bug's head blows off its body, the big puppet one. Instead of seeing Kasim's get his head cut off, it's about to be cut off, and then he cut to the bug and its head gets blown off. Get it? So it's like match cut symbolism, and a bit of stylized over just blood for no reason and gore. And Kido's covered in blood, and they say, oh, we'll give you the extermination fee, we'll send it to you soon, all business. And Lizzie can't help it, almost lash out at him and almost calls him a murderer as well, and he walks off all cold. He gets back to the inn, or wherever he stays, Mario's place, and he gives the necklace instead to one of the kids and says, hey, one of the orphan kids who's there, one of the runaway kids, and says, do something with this, sort of like a memento, rather than give it over to Illy, because I guess he's trying to be hard, not give in to his feelings, so he's fighting who didn't want to give it to Illy. And he, Illy's like, oh, she's hard to say something, and then sort of got a cold stare. He's standing there covered in blood, and she steps aside, and he walks inside. He's trying to be all hard. And he gets there, and he's washing the blood off himself in a sink, and then he has flashbacks, and he actually cared, and he's flashing back to the things the guy said to him, and he roars out. He's actually really pissed off, and it really hurt him to do that, and he wasn't showing anybody. Despite all his, you had to be a cold murderer thing, and they're no longer people. Look, guys, character arcs. Kido's a person, and he has feelings, and he's struggling with the things he's buried, and we got to know a guy who was just a throwaway character, who was kind of annoying, and he had a backstory and a past, and he was willing to sacrifice himself, and then they bait and switched us where you thought he did something good and he was going to have a future, and oh no, the horror, he also became a bug. There's actual writing in this episode, this is the best episode, of course, by far. It's actually revitalized me. I was getting tired there, and I'm interested now. If they can keep it up for the next 2 episodes and actually have stuff to give, maybe I can just call it a hell of a slow start and it's something worth watching. We'll see. But this was a good episode. I'm impressed. Not going to take up any more time. Let's go. Episode 5 now. Okay, that was episode 5. Okay. That's, okay, we gotta talk about it. This is the Kido backstory episode. Did I want it this early? No. Did it change much? No. Did it have issues? Oh yeah. So, let's wind back the clock as we do for this episode. Kido was a kid taken in by a former priest, this former priest ended up becoming basically the head of the exterminators, who at the time were not really what they are now. They're doing sort of freelancey mercenary work, which is hard to explain. They would kill bugs and stuff, and then that would earn them looting rights, where they could just sort of take what they wanted. And this is our first instance of implied sexual assault, and or, further than that, with, men making, grabby hands at women that they're clearly going to take as payment. Fantastic. If you want to show, a grizzled world, those things come up, okay. Putting it there, I was like, okay, I get, at least they're, nameless back characters, and it's not presented as good or anything, For the story, it's okay. Alright, so that's there. So I let that one slide, because it was telling a story. So Kido grows up under his tutelage, this guy named Lazarus, which is very on the nose. Father Lazarus. So that's why I thought he put my emphasis on father. It wasn't just father like priest, because no, he's an adoptive father. But Father Lazarus, literally, he was Christian and worshipped Jesus, and at the end he'll be turned into a god for Kido, and his name is Lazarus, like rebirth. Okay, very on the nose there. Anyway, so Kido grows up under his tutelage, etc., etc. We cut to when they're about 10-ish, and he's fearless, right? He's like as a kid, there's bugs like screaming in his face, about to die, and he doesn't move. He's been taught all these things that the priest told himself, that, you have to be heartless and fearless, and you can't see bugs as people, and you can't, waver, and, you have to do what's right, and he said he'd die, at the drop of a hat for him, and those kind of things. I'm okay with all of that. Okay, yeah, this kid's been misguided down the wrong path, and, he has a lot of skills because of it, but it's a very dark path. Okay, so now we get to Kido discovering women, sort of. They do a good job, kill a bug, and the guys, as a joke, like the exterminated guys in the group, they jokingly say they'll take him somewhere as a reward. Turns out it's a brothel, and they're, sort of laughing at him not knowing about girls and stuff. He gets teased by a girl, just like, hey, you're too young to be in here kind of thing. Okay, fair enough, I guess. Given the setting they're in, nothing bad's happened yet, so whatever. She says you're about 10 years too early to be in here. And, they're just in, the foyer sort of thing, so there's nothing bad happening. Then we cut to later, and the leader, Lazarus, and the leader of a military out there, they're friends who know each other from childhood. And the military is putting down orders. So they're going to set up rules for extermination. And those are you don't get looting rights anymore, that's not a thing. You will get payment for your exterminations to make it, fairer, you get paid better, it's less damaging, etc. Okay? And they set up rules for what counts as murder versus extermination. Once there's wings, they lose rights as a human and you can kill them. We see demonstrations of this. We see a woman just get executed in the street for trying to defend her husband while he's turning. He gets called a traitor. Okay. It's a bit disjointed, this whole thing. Anyway, the point of this is that they work together on a joint operation, and the military blow a bomb, and it kills a whole bunch of exterminators. Pretty much everyone on the group. The only one who survived was Kido, because he got saved by Lazarus, who broke his arm but saved him. So those two lived, all the others died that went on this mission. And, it comes up of, did they do it on purpose to kill the exterminators, or whatever. Anyway, so they have this discussion, and then Kido finds Lazarus in a church, and he tells his backstory about his family dying, and he realized you have to be heartless and all this, and then he said he'd just been telling himself that, and he can't actually live that way, and Kido also shouldn't live that way, and they have this chat, and Kido is very upset by this and screaming because he said he'd do whatever he said, he'd die for him, he lives by these things, don't take it away. That's the only sort of training and outlook on life he has and purpose he has, so don't say these things. Anyway, right at the poignant moment, of course, because this thing is random and we don't know how it works, but it works on dramatic timing apparently, Lazarus starts becoming a bug, and Kido kills him, he stabs him through the gut, and then takes off his head because he's instructed to, and then military turn up and say that he killed him before there were wings, so technically he murdered someone. That comes later. Okay, so he runs away to the brothel, and the woman who teased him and was, I guess the favorite girl of whoever was there, the commander dude, she comforts him. He's in her room, and he's crying and covered in blood and trying to figure out what just happened. Okay? So she goes, "What up?" in the bathroom, you're a mess, and anyway, so he freaks out in the bathroom and smashes stuff, and I killed my father, and he was everything, and I would have died for him, and all that. To quiet him, she kisses him. Okay, so he's definitely well underage, and they make this point a few times. When it comes to maturing as a person, and if you want to do that in a story where it happens early or situationally, and these sort of things come up, okay, morally it should be wrong. Okay, you don't discuss these things unless, the criminal aspect of this. In a story like this, you can look at it as child soldiers and all this kind of thing. There's a discussion to be had there, and you can use these things in interesting ways. They don't do that here. It doesn't really serve a purpose, because she forces a kiss on him, and then when he relaxes, she pushes him to the floor and keeps it going, and then gives a nice little speech, and you're okay, Is it going to cut there? Is that it? Is it just the kiss? It cuts to him in bed, like, waking up. I'll at least clarify that. But he's shirtless and everything, and she's getting out of the bed and, like, fixing her nightgown thing. It's implied that and it will be confirmed later. Okay, so if you wanted to use that and actually have a really important discussion about it, that'd be one thing. They don't do anything with it. It just happened. And he's not better for it at the end. He hasn't changed his outlook. It's weird. And then, that's pretty horrible. And then, it's horrible because it's pointless, and because it's pointless, it's horrible. So, yeah. And then, the military comes saying he actually committed a murder, let us in, and he said he goes with them, like, he agrees to go with them, and, this is the second instance of implied, like, forced sexual acts, because the guards threaten the girl while she's blocking the door, being like, hey, you're really popular with the soldiers, don't make us have to, do something we don't want to do, anyway, so that's the second time this episode. That one was very unnecessary, and he doesn't get comeuppance for it, so it's just pointless. So, yeah. And then, so he goes to the military, and they say, instead of charging you as a criminal, you can work for us. Here's a bunch of money for your extermination. Good job. And he goes, oh yeah, sure. And then, of course, 3 soldiers break into his room and stab the bed where he should be. He anticipated it and had left early. They say don't bother chasing him. He leaves he leaves that money and the priest necklace on the windowsill for the girl as, just like a remember him by this and here's some money to help out, thanks sort of thing. And he leaves, and he said he wants to turn Lazarus into a god for him, so his ideals are what he'll live by, despite the fact he was taking back those ideals. He wants to transform him from a man into a god, and live by his creed. Now, there is some other weird things here. I'm watching it with the subtitles, and the dub, and I know that's weird, and yes, there is differences, and I noticed them. I did it mostly to learn their names, to start with, because I was missing them, and now I've just had them on, so I just left it. In the subtitles, when so the woman runs out, her name is Kara, I think, the lady at the brothel. Kara, yeah. She goes looking for him, like, running out into the street, but obviously he's long gone, sort of thing. And then she, reads his note and collapses about him becoming a god. He writes his real name on it, which is Ilek, I think. Ileck, I think it was. Okay. Because it turns out his name is actually Lazarus' real son's name that he, bestowed upon him to be, his replacement kid when he found him as an orphan. Okay. And then in those subtitles, it says, instead of what he wrote out, it says, I want to ask my sister a question, if you can. So he's addressing her as sister, which makes the whole sexual stuff just worse. Okay. Obviously they're not, related or anything, but if that's how he was supposed to have seen her or something, I didn't read the subtitles the whole way through. I don't know if I missed something there, but it caught my eye and I'm like, what? That's not okay. It's even worse. And then, flashback ends, and we see, the sword that he took from Lazarus and all these things, and he's talking with Maria, talking about how people deal with pain and loss, and she makes some food and takes it up to him and says, hey, thought you might want some food. And oh god. And then while they're talking, he says something about if she wanted to make him feel better and he can make her feel better or something. I don't actually want to rewatch and get the exact lines. Basically, he pushes her down on the bed and, pins her down and is like, yeah, totally, that's what he's doing. Buries his face in her neck, and she's like, whoa, 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 stop. And he was totally about to, and then stopped himself. And, at least he stopped himself. The show didn't go there, but whew, that was non-consensual and out of nowhere. And she backs away saying she doesn't want that, and why would she think he wants that? And he said something about, this is when someone told me I need to ask, or something. And they make it nice, and says that he needs sleep and she'll be there for him. She can't be there for him like that, but she can be for him and friends. And they end on a laugh and leave because he picks up the sandwiches she dropped and says he'll eat them anyway, and she's like, don't worry if you get sick, and leaves. And they sort of laugh about it, and that's the end. Okay, why did the sexual assault fairy visit this episode? Why was there implications of forced sexual relations in the beginning? I understood it for the setup, but it wasn't a one-off. It's this is episode. So it's at the beginning, And then, so it basically happens like 3 or 4 times this episode. It's just unnecessary because they didn't do anything with it. I'm not against discussing some of these things if you're going to use them in your show and get something out of it. Is it going to be... It's sort of the approach of putting any even normal sex scene into a film. When I was studying it and when you discuss how you're writing a film, what you're trying to do, usually those things are in there for a reason. So, you know, let's say if you're making adult content, the reason is the sex stuff, right? But if you're doing a story, usually it's there to, like, form a relationship, or is there, like, a dynamic where one person's playing the other, or is someone getting something, or, you know. There's usually a reason to have those scenes. They should be plot relevant. And if they're not plot relevant, they can be character relevant. You can change things about people. And even if those things are darker, like, that's something. But really, and then when they're not any of those things, that's when it's gratuitous, right? Like, how far it goes, how much you have to see, if you get anything out of what you're seeing, if, you know, it goes on far too long as needed, those sort of things. Here, the whole underage, like, I guess becoming a man thing, he could put in there, but it wasn't even in there. Like, they didn't cover that sort of thing. Nothing changed afterwards or before, and he doesn't comment being like, oh, I expected things to change, and they didn't. Like, there's no character anything. It's just there to be there. You know, you can talk about it as comfort, I guess, but that could have been provided very differently. And yeah, or I forgot to say, when he pins Illy to the bed, he says, I'll see if I can remember what Kara showed me. So yeah, they definitely did. It's not just implied. He, like, totally confirms it. I was uncomfortable with it. It wasn't sexualized much. Like, she was a bit, like, you know, they gave extra jiggle and stuff to her movements and what she was wearing, but it did at least fit the setting and what they were going for early on and was consistent through the episode. They didn't overdo it, or at least not really. But the whole, you know, you didn't see all the act and anything, and they didn't go into detail, but it wasn't necessary, and it didn't need to be there. But I pride myself on being fair. Taking those elements out of it, the rest of the backstory, it didn't do much for me, right? Because it didn't change much about the bugs, and him dealing with humanity and, you know, killing his father figure and being charged with murder, even though the guy was definitely going to turn into a bug. He didn't follow the exact rules because of wings and all that, and he was only a kid, and being raised to have these certain beliefs and struggling with the person who taught you them, challenging that, and then turning it into, like, basically a religion you live by the end. Very big for a kid, all those sort of things. It's not that there's no discussion to be had there, and it's not that these things couldn't be done well, but they change nothing for me about this, because so far, except for the one episode, Kiddo has showed almost no personality, really. There was only that thing where he was outside doing his mantra of, like, be heartless and all that. Okay, I guess this gives context to that, and he's wrestling with those emotions now because of the friend he had to kill and all that, and he's thinking back on where he learned these things and when he had to struggle with that against his old father and everything. Fair enough, I see some of that, but this doesn't change that much. It doesn't recontextualize that much. I didn't get much out of it. So far we've had the first episode, I got nothing except all the setup. The second episode was terrible and boring. The third episode was nothing until the end, and we got the first hint of something interesting but hasn't come back yet. Fourth episode was quite good and I quite enjoyed it. We played catch-up and a lot of characters actually had stuff. And now this, the fifth episode, we had the backstory. You got one more episode to hook me into the rest of this plot. You've taken out some of the goodwill because of the boring episode and the sexual assault stuff in this episode. Those two things damage your points with me, because the boring episode was a waste and got nothing, and put me well off the show to start with. The sexual assault stuff, you didn't even do anything with it, so it feels very pointless and gratuitous, and if that's the case, I don't need to see it. Do something for 6. See how we go. Alright, episode 6. Let's do it. Alright, and that was episode 6. So a lot of people might wonder why I do 6. Like, why don't I watch the whole thing and review the whole thing? Or why do I do one at a time? Well, the reason is that by hitting 6, by hitting that halfway point, I give you all the time you need to set things up, possibly have a little arc, and at 6 you need to hook me back in for the second half. And I think it's a fair assessment of if a show would have hooked me in. So, as always, or as should be, the plot showed back up for episode 6. Now, I am somewhat interested in that plot, but anyway, we'll see. I guess I'll cover it. What happens? So, the first thing that really threw me off and I hated was the very first thing that happens in this episode is they turn that sexual assault thing that nearly happened between Kido and Illy into a joke, where the whole bar makes some joke about something and she turns it back on them and goes, oh, he didn't even know what to do with me, and they had to spit out their drinks and they go, oh, he laid her hands on her, how could he? And, it's a joke and he's embarrassed, like, oh, okay. That was a talk about putting your worst foot forward. So, my hopes weren't high. And we get into the plot. And the plot is heaps of people from A1, which is the big city. Oh, sorry, not A1, O1. O1, the big city, which is like a metropolis with electricity everywhere. It's like the biggest, best place. They show us, people from that military start showing up everywhere. And Lizzie gets offered a scholarship by I can't remember his name, but the underling of the tank guy, who then we learn was let go for letting him transform that far without killing him. He comes through and says that Lizzie basically has a scholarship to go to O1 and go to have a big bright future at a proper school. Okay, she doesn't want that, she runs away, she just wants everything to be the same, and all the orphan kids and stuff tell her, they end up coming around to you should do it and pay attention to your future, right? Okay, so that's all sort of blah 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 blah, just happens on top. Then we get to back at Mario's place and military roll up. Step back. The tank squad give info to Kido that something weird happened where Lizzie is from. And it's that a Cagaster was registered as appearing and flying down and then leaving and not killing anybody, which has never happened. Like, it didn't attack. And there was a story that a little girl, basically matching exactly Illy's description, was, again, there's more sexual assault stuff in this. There was apparently some guy who was like, I can't remember by the reason he was there, some traveling person. He liked to drag girls into the forest and then this other guy came across the one night, and there was that guy half turned into a Cagaster, and the girl he had dragged in the woods, and a little girl was standing between them and seemed to be making him transform or something, and it was very strange. And then the Cagaster and he completely transformed into a Cagaster and it flew away without attacking them. That's the story. And so that's very weird. They describe her hair as silver blonde, even though it's just like pale green. But okay, that was distracting. Anyway, so then the military rock up and bust into Mario's. They're looking for Illy. And Kido, because he's so good, gets her out of there. And they run away, and there's military on the hills. We got a flash that the serial killer guy is back in town at the very beginning, so he's around. So anyway, those military bust in, and also with them is the shady guy who was with the other military dudes we saw, like the leadery dude who knew who Griffith was and all that, the creepy guy. So he shows up and he claims to be Ilya's father as well, which I'm assuming is probably like a science way, like he gave birth to her with their experiments or something, because we find out in this episode she's weird. Okay. So they run away, and the soldiers chasing her everywhere, and the street rats, of course, help them out. So the kids be like, hey, escape route this way, let's go. And they go underground, and they basically have a talk where they can they plan to get on some caravans leaving the city, on a route they use to dodge, like, taxes and stuff. And, but that'll mean they're fugitives forever. And he asks her if she's ready for that, and she says, as long as you're with me, and is like blushy, and yeah, I don't want you to leave me alone. Which is also, like a big crying thing, like, don't leave me alone. And he's trying to get her to recall what happened, because he realizes now it was weird when he found her that her dad was dead, she was knocked out, and they were being chased by bugs, but none of them died. So, where were the Cagasters? Why didn't they get eaten? So he now figures that's weird, along with the stories he heard as well. Anyway, so they're gonna leave, and then serial killer dude attacks. So Kilo's got to fight him now, and they tell the other people to run. So they start running. The little kids get them away through tunnels, pop up. Oh no, there's military waiting right for them. 2 dudes. They say they're gonna kill the kids and just take Illy. Okay, so Illy then. Okay, so the assassin. I keep saying assassin. He looks like an assassin, but no, he's the serial killer guy, the half bug dude. And Kido having their fight, pretty even, and At the other side of things, Illy is out of options, right? So actually a gun goes off, and Killy starts losing. Kiddo, whatever. He starts losing because he's focusing. He's thinking about getting away to try and help them, and he gets pinned to a wall and like is about to lose. And they make it out like that gunshot was supposed to kill Lizzie, which made sense because she had like, oh, she's gonna have a bright future and go to a school. She runs out to protect someone, gunshot. Then we cut back there and nothing happened. I guess they just missed, but it was like drama for no reason. Anyway, stuck at an impasse. Illy has no other option, and her eyes wake up, and we get a flashback saying that the little flashes she was trying to remember of her father were him pointing a gun at her. And he says, sorry, like I have to do this. And it turns out she is a Cagaster master, and she's standing by the car that they crashed, and there's like a vortex of all the Cagaster flying around them in like a tornado, but not attacking, like under her control. But obviously that doesn't work out because of the story so far. So then she explains that so-and-so, like one of the kids is 9, the other kid's like 13 or something, and you can't have a Cagaster outbreak if you're under 14 or 15 or something, which I don't remember them establishing before, so random bit of knowledge to know. And then she goes, ah, she does a little harmony, ah, and little, I don't know, spores or magic or something fly out of her and brush past the dudes, like a little magical thing happens. And one of the dudes starts turning into a Cagaster really quickly. Notably, even in the distance, it seems to go past Kiddo and I think his name's Arct, whatever, or the serial killer guy. And he recognizes this. He goes, oh, idiot, or something like that. So he knows whatever she's doing, because they seem to be related, like I said. And also, the guy claiming to be a father is charging him, so yeah. And I guess it doesn't affect everyone, because Kiddo didn't get affected. Obviously, the other guy's half bug, and then the 2 guards, only one of them got affected. But he turns into a Cagaster pretty quick, or like a half one, walks up to her, and she's like, yep, I'm your master, do what I tell you. And he walks over and kills the other dude. And then military roll up, and they shoot down the half Cagaster man, and I guess she's about to get taken by military because Kiddo's separated, that guy isn't beaten yet, and all the military roll up, I guess, to take her, and she does a little speech about how she forgot, or she was pretending and had a nice little dream, I guess, with Griffith or whatever, but she, she's woken up now. And the guy who showed up claiming to be a father mentions Tanya or whatever, so I guess it's a military person. She's one of Tanya's kids after all or something. So that's the hook for the second half. What do I think? I think that this show had potential. I think that it got off to a very slow start. I think it fails in making the Cagaster interesting because it set them up as the big threat of the world, and they've only shown up twice to do anything of relevance. They just show up in the background. Or people start turning into them and have to be killed. And that, you can do the emotional stuff like they did for that one good episode, like the one standout episode. And that's alright, but the Cagaster themselves don't do anything. Like, okay, yeah, no, they showed up in the tunnel as well. But, I don't know, they're not a constant threat, they're not always around, they don't feel like, they're supposed to have created this world they're in, but, I don't know, they don't feel like an oppressive force that they're struggling to beat, they feel like an annoyance that's around. And, because Kiddo's so good and the tank squad, and they just kill them, and, it's fine. And everyone seems fine. So the fact she's, like, the master of them, it's interesting, but they feel so lacking in the story. Like I said, the most interesting part of them is just the half Cagaster dude. But the actual Cagasters themselves, we haven't had enough interaction with, it feels like, despite them being so integral to this story. So that feels sloppy. The fact that they, not present, but like I guess present's the right word. The way that they get across how good Kiddo is and how fast the half Cagaster dude is. They sort of make it look like magic, and I know it's not meant to be. I think they're just meant to be that good, and that's fine because animate over the top and stylized and all that. But the fact that they did that and then were supposed to know inherently, no, that was just them being super awesome. But now there is like magical stuff too, or magic or science, whatever, crazy experiments or whatever. But there is like, she has powers and stuff now. Now it feels weird because you have, people with actual powers and then people doing stuff that's presented like powers but isn't powers. So that's a presentation error. The animation didn't really grow on me. It still looks pretty jank, especially when they're driving. The Cagaster, they stopped using the big dragonfly looking ones and they used more the centipede faced ones. They look a lot better, so that's good. What else? The character models, whatever. The design's pretty bland on the people, none of them are that memorable looking, really. Not that I want everyone to be over-the-top anime shonen designs, but they're not very memorable designs at all. They just look like everyone else, which I guess you can say is a good thing. It feels like a cohesive world, but visually there's not much to get you interested in it. The Cagaster don't look that great in any form, and the initial Dragonfly ones we see look goofy as hell. The sexual assault stuff and all that came up late into the episode count. They didn't do anything with it. It felt pretty icky, and I've watched anime before, a lot of it rolls off my back with just some of the sex jokes and the goofiness and, the old man pervert, cliche, and I'm used to it all, but the way they used it in this story where they're trying to make things serious just felt pointless, and because it's pointless, it felt, just didn't do anything. The backstory I don't think helped. Would I watch the second half of this? I'm interested to see where it goes, but the show wasted so much time and got so little done for a lot of the first half. I don't know if the second half is going to be just balls to the walls awesome and make up for the whole first half or not. It is a promising episode 6, but every show does a promising episode 6. That's why I watched the 6, to see what the promising episode is. So, the hook for the second half sounds interesting, but even if she is the Cagaster Master, we don't have, enough interaction with the Cagaster for it to make sense. The guy who's, related to her, I don't know why he's a serial killer, and there's probably some backstory, but he's kind of interesting, but the fights aren't that great. Kirito's, we know the backstory of him now. He's not interesting, really, and his development stuff is weird, and all of his fun development, all the stuff around Mario in the shop and making jokes and trying to get him more lighthearted is gone again because now they're in grimdark, bad world, gotta save him from the crazy military and stuff, so they're on the run, fugitives now, so all that's not gonna happen anymore. It wastes time in some of its episodes. The action's bland. Cagaster enemies aren't great. Despite it being labeled horror, there's no horror. And the gore's pretty minimal. It's not too bad, You can look at those things as fun, right? You can lean into the over-the-top gore or the horror of it is in a fun way. And it's not there for that either. Really doesn't have it. So, no, not really. I would watch the second half if it was just playing, if I felt fine and not tired and whatever, and I was already watching the show, I might just let it run. But I can go the rest of my life without seeing the second half of this and not care. I will come back for a second half if people really want me to. If the comments explode that the second half is awesome and you want to see it, or if it's terrible and you want to put me through it, I guess let me know, because that can be fun as well. But it's so middle of the road, it's so nothing. It doesn't have enough hooks for me to be interested. It's not that great to look at. It's just pretty meh. And that sucks because I was really hoping for either an action sort of night or a fun, gory, over-the-top sort of night, or a spooky horror, something fun. It's big bugs and people turn into bugs and all the stuff is action scenes, all the trailer had lots of people with guns and military guys, and that's not really my thing, but I'm okay, if there's swarms of dudes fighting bugs, if it's what do you call it, if it's Starship Troopers or something, but horror-based, that'd be cool. I'd watch that. It's not that. It's, I'd give this one a miss, that's just me. But, it's been a long video, it's been a long recording session, very long recording session. I've got a lot to edit, I've got a lot to do. I'd give this one a miss. But, the video's fun to make, so if you like this, please like it. Share it if you think others would like it too. Let me know what you think in the comments down below and subscribe for more. Because I really want to know. Am I missing something? Am I wrong? Do you love this show? Do you hate it? Let me know. Until next time, remember, no matter how bad the Cagaster are, nothing bugs me more than you wasting my time. I'm Rigger. Hope you have a wonderful day. And I hope I did alright.